Hey guys, I just wanted to go ahead and do my birth story real quick as I have been way too busy and I might as well just get it out of the way, and I'm going to try to make it as quickly as I can because it's pretty dramatic. It started off on the 15th. I had already been having on and off contractions for God, like, I don't know, like a week by that point, and even days prior, we really thought it was time, and I would lose my mucus plug over and over. Sorry for the TMI. There's going to be a lot of details in TMI, by the way, so if you guys don't like those kind of details, do not watch this video. It's going to be very detailed. Anyway, and I just was kind of like, okay, what's going on? So when we went to my appointment that day on the 15th, my midwife offered to go ahead and strip my membranes if I wanted, and I said yes, please. And so they did that, and I walked around. I stayed near the office. They have a lake near the office, and I walked around the lake for an hour, and right away those contractions were kicking in. And when I came back from my walk and they checked me, I was about 4 centimeters. So we decided at that point, let's get home. Yeah, it was kind of quick the way it started. My body was just ready, I guess. So the thing is, my midwife's office is like 40 minutes away from my house. And when we went to go home, it was during rush hour traffic. So we got on a very, very major highway called I-4. And if you live in Florida, you know exactly what that is. And I-4 during rush hour, yeah. So it was pretty crazy. We're in the car. My contractions are actually starting to be from 7 minutes down to 5 minutes. And we're still in just crawling along, and then they started to become like every 3 to 4 minutes, and we were scared. It was a very, very it was frustrating, but we finally made it home after I thought I was going to have the baby in the car, because that was the other thing, they became intense quickly. It wasn't like that first stage of labor type of contractions. They were like, it felt like active labor. So it got a little scary in the car for a minute there, but we finally made it home. It took what seemed like forever. Wanted to do a water birth, okay. As they were filling up the water, my husband was filling up the water, and my birth team started arriving to the house and things like that, they discovered the stupid pool was leaking. This pool, mind you, was borrowed from someone else, and so I guess we couldn't tell that it was broken until we started putting water in it. So there went my water birth, but that's okay. I ended up on the bed later, but yeah, I was kind of upset about that. But anyway, the labor experience was actually pleasant in that there is nothing, I have to say, there is nothing like having a home birth. I mean, being able to labor around your house, around your bedroom, or go back and forth to your own bathroom, you're just more familiar. For me, it was more comfortable in that aspect. Not that labor is comfortable, but you guys know what I mean. I mean, I would just drape myself over the bed. This labor was a lot of hands and knees, whereas with my first, I could not stand that position. I just wanted to lay on my side with my first, or lay on my back. Not very productive. But this one was a lot of walking, a lot of back and forth to the toilet, a lot of hands and knees, and a lot of people, just awesome people, rubbing my back and giving me counter pressure on my lower back, and doing the hip squeezing and things like that. It was awesome. That really, really helped me, because for some reason this time around the labor was so much more intense than with my first. Hers was much longer. It was 48 hours. This one was just intense. I swear it felt like what I guess would be like if you had Pitocin. They were just so intense. I roared like a lion through the whole labor. It was just growling and roaring, and I was very, very vocal. Again, very different from my first experience. And okay, so it just seemed like so much closer than what it was for a little while there. So I got checked thinking I was about to give birth at one point, and the midwife was like, oh, you're still 5, you're about 5, and I got really discouraged. yeah, I said, go ahead and break my water. When they broke my water, my labor quickly went from, I mean, my cervix, I should say, went from 5 centimeters to complete in, I would say, less than an hour. It was insane. I got on the toilet, and everybody had kind of like, they thought it wasn't going to happen at that point after they broke my water. They thought it wasn't going to happen that quickly. I remember being on the toilet and just my body was just pushing. I just would have this contraction, and I could feel everything just squeeze, and I would have to grunt really hard. And I told my husband, I feel really pushy. And sure enough, when they went to check me after that, she was like, you have like a rim of cervix left. So I got back over to my bed and kind of just kneeled on the floor and draped halfway over the bed and pushed that way for a little while. After a few, I would say maybe 10 minutes of doing that, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. The pressure in my bottom was so bad. At that point, all I kept thinking about was get on the bed. I don't know why. I just did not want to be in that kneeling, squatting position. Oh, I just didn't want anything to do with it. I felt like my lower back was going to break. I should mention throughout this whole thing, my daughter was in the room. She was around. She was wonderful. She was quietly observing. She'd leave if she had to when things got a little too much for her. But anyway, I got on the bed, and in my head, I decided I was done. I was like, this is way too intense. This is horrible. This is way worse than I remember it the first time. I wanted this baby out. So I got my butt on the bed. I pulled my own legs back, and I just started to push. And wow, again, totally different. I don't remember feeling this ring of fire. Not like that. Not the way people describe it. I don't remember that kind of pain the first time. Actually, when I was delivering Aislin's head, I was really in control. I was actually really quiet. I knew how to just blow until I eased her head out. With this baby, oh my gosh, I screamed. But it wasn't an out of control scream. It felt like a controlled scream, if that made sense. It was like a push scream, but I needed to scream. I had to. I thought I was ripping in every direction, just because I guess she came so quickly that her head didn't really mold well. It was like still nice and round, and it was hurting. So that was really intense. My husband was there, and he put on some gloves and got in front of me, and I just screamed this baby out, and he caught her and put her on my chest, or on my belly, and it was incredible. It was beautiful. Again, just that moment of when you don't know what you're having, and they put this baby on you, and I was the one that got to look, and opened up those little legs, and I saw that it was a girl. It was just, I cannot describe to you that feeling. You just have to go through it. It's amazing. It's beautiful, and she opened up her little mouth and cried, and she was born beautiful. She wasn't all beat up like most babies tend to look. She was born, to me, like she looked so perfect. And I just remember apologizing to her and saying, I'm sorry, that was rough. I know that was rough, and telling her that I loved her. And I can't get emotional. So after that, things kind of and my daughter, she got emotional too. I mean, what 7-year-old is that connected to any situation? Like, she was just wonderful. I saw the look on her face, and you could see that joy in her face too. My husband, we were all just, it was a very emotional moment. But it kind of started to get serious. And this is where the birth story becomes very dramatic. I could see that my midwife starting to get a little quiet, and I could feel blood just gushing. And at one point I said, am I okay? Because I felt it. And she says, yeah, you're bleeding a little too much for my liking. This is this needs to be a transfer. So the room, it was amazing the way the room took this, the atmosphere completely changed. And everybody got real quiet and things got really serious, and she called 911 because it was just, that blood was just flowing. I looked at my husband and I told him, take the baby. And they were asking me, do you feel okay? And I said, so far, yes. And I remember when I went from not feeling okay to instantly not feeling okay within minutes. By the time the ambulance crew got into my bedroom, I was starting to feel crappy. And I got scared, and all I kept saying was, please help me. Because I could just, the blood went from around my bottom to my mid-back to, by the time they pulled me off the bed, it was almost to my shoulder blades. I was literally laying in my blood. And they got me into the ambulance. It was about a 15 to 20 minute ride, which is long when you're bleeding out like that. By the time I was in the ambulance, I was feeling very faint, very dizzy. I was trying to continue that communication with the guys that were helping me, who were amazing. Just to rewind, my midwife was also amazing. She was doing all kinds of things to help me before even the ambulance got there. She even gave me a shot of Pitocin. So I want you guys to know that midwives are prepared. They do have drugs for these things. And, those things do make a difference. So anyway, in the ambulance, every vein had collapsed. I had lost so much blood by that point. They were having a hard time finding veins. And he was actually looking for veins in my neck at that point. It was surreal. I could feel, I just kept thinking about my family and my girls, how I just gave birth to this baby, and, I knew how serious the situation was becoming, and I knew how much blood I was losing, and I was just thinking about my family. So we got to the hospital, and they were working very quickly. I was given a very major blood transfusion. I had to receive 5 units of blood because I had literally lost half of my blood volume by the time I got there. They rushed me off to the OR and told me to sign. I could barely make an X on a paper. I had barely the strength to lift my hand. My speech was slurred at that point, and I was really fighting at that point to stay awake, but I was fighting. And it was basically that, that paper that you sign that says, okay, this is what's possible. We might have to give you a hysterectomy, that whole thing, if we can't stop the bleeding. And at that point, you're just thinking about, please just save my life. So I was willing to sign whatever. They got me in the OR, and thank God what had happened was the placenta just didn't want to come out, first of all. Second of all, it's suspected that I had a partial abruption, like it tore away partially, and that's the part that just kept bleeding out, while the rest of it didn't want to let go yet, and my uterus at that point just didn't want to contract down. All recipes for a disaster. So, but when they got me to the OR, they were able to go in and remove the placenta, stop the bleeding, and kind of just make sure I was all cleaned out inside. I received all the blood I needed. I received all the medicine I needed, and in the end, they saved my life. It was really hard because I was separated from my baby for so long. I have talked about this so many times and I haven't cried. I guess I'm just really, really back there as I'm talking about it. But that was really hard for me to be that separated from her. It had been like hours, like 7 hours. Only the time that I had with her was minutes, really, when you think about it, in my bedroom. Because as things started to get really serious, I told my husband to take her from me. And I hadn't seen her since, and it had been a long time. So when they had me in recovery, my husband had arrived to the hospital with the baby, and they had her admitted just so that she could be with me. And there was nothing wrong with the baby. She was little, 5 pounds, 1 ounce, but there was nothing wrong with her. They just had her admitted anyway. And so I just kept asking for her. And after a very long time, I finally got to hold her again. And it really, at that point, it felt like the first time, because it had been so many hours. And I was just so grateful to be able to hold her and keep her with me, finally. So they gave us a room, and geez, once you get started, it's hard to stop. Sorry. They gave us a room, and I was able to, at that time, just stay with her. They didn't take her from me. Only to check little things like her blood sugar, but they'd bring her back. And we finally began, I would say, that's when we finally began our bond. I know I bonded with her right away, but a deeper bond, I guess I could say. So I was in the hospital for 3 days. And in those 3 days, I was great. I made a really quick recovery considering how close I came to death, pretty much. It is what it is. I almost died. So, and the other thing is I couldn't wait to see my other little girl. She had this look on her face before I was carted off by the ambulance people, and I just couldn't wait to hug her and kiss her and tell her Mommy's okay and everything's fine. And finally they let her visit me, and it was wonderful. So everything turned out great in the end. I don't regret having a home birth at all, because these things happen. This is not the result of a home birth. It happened, and it happened to be that I was having a home birth. So I don't want this to discourage anybody or scare anybody out of a home birth. My midwife was wonderful. She was qualified. She had what she needed to get me started. Of course, you do have to go, you have to call 911. You have to get further intervention when these things take place. But they thought quickly. They did all the right things, and I don't regret it. And my home birth, other than when things started to get scary, it was beautiful. And my husband caught our baby, and that was wonderful. And I delivered her in our bedroom. It was just amazing. So I would not take that back for anything in this world. But am I grateful for hospitals? Yes. And I'm grateful for doctors, and I'm grateful for medicine. And so, so I had, I guess, experienced both worlds in this birth. Thankfully, like I said, everything turned out wonderful. I have my baby. I'm healthy. I'm recovering still, but everything is wonderful. And I'm going to wrap it up there. If you guys have questions about that, I'm sure you might have some questions. Just leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. And that's it, guys. I'm going to leave it at that. Everything ended up great, so thank God. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.